Okay, so today we're working on a 2014 Jeep Cherokee. Just a base model with 3.2 in it. And I've been doing some research on how to replace the alternator. Couldn't find anything, no videos, no instructions. So I figured I would just make a video to help you guys out. It can be done with just a few tools. Maybe a creeper. You can use jacks and jack stands. So what I used was a flathead screwdriver, a clip popper, 13mm ratcheting wrench, 1/4-inch drive with a stubby 13mm or half, 3/8 drive with a 13mm, a 10mm, deep or shallow, it doesn't matter. You may or may not use a 13 deep, and you use a 1/2-inch ratchet with a 4-6-inch extension so you can get the serpentine belt off. I don't fully have it put together, so I can show you guys how I did it. So underneath there's this cover right here, which will be all 10mm. You have about 3 there, if I remember correctly, 3 up front, 4 up front, and 2 on each side. So 3 back, 1 on each side, and 4 up front. Then from underneath, you are going to remove 2 clips, 2 connectors for the AC compressor. This one and this one. Actually, before we do that, disconnect the battery terminals. I disconnected both. But after that, you go ahead and remove those 2 clips on the AC compressor. You do not have to take the AC compressor apart or anything, remove the lines or anything crazy like that. So then I removed that cover thinking it's gonna help me out. It didn't, so you don't have to remove the cover. You do have to remove this cover. Then remove the air box, which is gonna be in 2 pieces. You got an 8mm or flathead screwdriver you can use for this to pop the hose clamp. And this is just clipped in. 1 clip is here, there, and here. It's more like a pressed onto those bushings. So you just pop it out. It will separate in 2 pieces. That's the first piece. Wow, can't even keep the camera straight. So that's the first piece. Has a little hose going to it. You just push it down hard, and it should pop right out. Then you have a second piece, but before you get to that, you have to remove 3 8mm here screws. There's a couple over here, 8mm, and then there's a 10 that goes over there. There's a 10mm that goes in here. There's a bunch of clips all the way around. You pop those out, and then there's 2 factory screws, or I have no idea. I don't have that tool, so I didn't take them apart. I just folded it under the brake rotor. Then you take these hoses. Well, actually, before you get to the hoses, again, for this piece, there's 2 clips. You pop them out slowly, and then there's a 10mm nut over here. You gotta squeeze from up top and grab that out. After you get this out, you take the water hoses and you bungee cord them up top or zip tie it like I did. Then there's 3 13mm bolts for the AC compressor. You take 1 here and 1 down below here, and then there's 1 dead center in the back. The back one, you can get it from underneath. So you just need that 2 inches. Actually helps to get the alternator squeezed through. Actually, before you do that, you use the 1/2 inch to remove the serpentine belt. Anyhow, super hot outside, so I'm kind of like missing things. Then there's 3 bolts for the alternator, all 13mm. 2 of them go towards the engine this way, and the other one is sideways, goes parallel with the engine. you want to take this one last, the furthest one away from you first, second, and then this one last third. So it's buried in there, so there's not really a good view. It'll go by feel. You're gonna take the first one out, which is right there in the back. I'm holding the flashlight so I can't point it out, but there's one furthest away from you. Take one first. You use the 1/4-inch drive to break it loose. They're not very tight in there, so before you get them all the way out, you're gonna hit the fan shroud. So switch to the ratcheting 13mm ratcheting wrench. Then you repeat the step on the closer one to you. Same thing, 1/4-inch, break them loose, and then you move to the ratcheting wrench before you hit the fan shroud. The bolts will not come out completely because they will hit the fan shroud, so you just leave them dangling there. You'll remove the third 13mm, and then you pull it out. It will be able to squeeze this one through. You'll kind of hang here, so then there's like a tight space here. You'd be able to take the clip out for the signal wire, and then you'll be able to take the 13mm nut off that holds the power wire to the alternator. You'll be able to access it from here. So then you squeeze it through here. Same thing, repeat the process backwards. Hook up the alternator. You put this in kind of snug, by hand, so you can have this gap rest on it. You do not want to hold the weight of the alternator. So you just rest it on there, and then you work on the bolts. It's roughly about a 4-hour job. It's doable. You don't have to have power tools or anything. It makes things a little faster. But yep, that'll be it. Just make sure everything's plugged in. Do everything backwards. So repeat the process backwards and you'll have everything back together.